Okay. So I want to thank everybody for being here today. We're going to go ahead and begin our town hall. This is the second round of town halls that we have. We have one in the very beginning of our process, but we want to begin our meeting this evening with an acknowledgement that hopefully will be part of our charter going forward and a recognition that will take place at all of our county meetings going forward. Let us acknowledge that we reside in the ancestral lands and waters of the Coast Salish people who have called this place home since time immemorial. And let us honor the inherent Aboriginal and treaty rights that have been passed down from generation to generation. So that is an acknowledgement that was worked on by one of our subcommittees and has been in existence, a portion of it within the county for some time. But as we move forward, it is absolutely critical that we acknowledge the first peoples of these islands. So with that, we will go into screen sharing, and Jane Fuller, who's a commissioner from Lopez, is going to help with that. Thank you very much. You want to go into slide? Okay, so we're going to spend, maybe 20 minutes, we hope, less than 30, just going through the amendments and the recommendations for the charter from the Charter Commission that will be appearing on the ballot this November. And I also want to acknowledge that we are in discussions of possibly splitting this between two votes. So some could appear this November, and then some could appear the following November, which is what took place recently in another county. And we're in discussions on whether or not we are going to do that going forward, and if we can in fact do that. But why don't we go into the next slide? And we will get to introductions of the full commission in just a moment, but I'm Kevin Ranker, and I was elected chair of the Charter Review Commission this year. So just a couple pieces regarding the process when we do get to the public comment. One is if you could please state your name and your island of residence. So where you're from and who you are. We'd like to try and keep you to 3 minutes, and Commissioner O'Connell is going to be our timekeeper. So at 30 seconds, he'll let you know when you got 30 seconds left, just very politely. He's a nice guy. But we really want to try and keep comments to 3 minutes so that everybody has an opportunity to speak. If you would like a response, like if you have a specific question, we're not going to have the time to get into a back and forth on Q&A on a lot of this. And so what we're asking is, if you would like a response to your question, please put your email in the chat. And if possible, just a reminder of your question. We will go back through the video as well. But if you could put your question and your email in the chat, then we will know to get back to you in a timely manner. And we are going to try and respond to everybody who writes to us, as we have been so far. We also want to remind everybody to be respectful of everybody on this call, commissioners, the public, and so on. We don't want to impugn people's motives or their actions, and we just want to try and keep this as friendly as possible. We know that some people have different opinions on some of the issues that we're talking about, and that's great, and that's what we're here for, and let's talk about that respectfully. The last thing is the contact information there. So if it's not in the chat, you can also email us at that email, SJC Charter Review, and that goes to every single commissioner. So if you email us at that email, we'll get your email and be able to respond to it. And then that's the Charter Review Commission website on the county web pages. So if you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so the charter itself is through our Constitution, and there are 7, I got it right, counties in San Juan County, County in Washington State. So there's 39 counties in the state, only 7. Can you mute Tom? Or maybe Olivia, if you could mute him, thank you. So out of the 39 counties in Washington State, only 7 are charter counties, and it's within our Constitution that we're able to do this. And The best description of what a charter is was given to us by Ron Sims, who led the County Charter Review Commission last time around in King County and also worked for the Obama administration. He said, your county charter is your constitution. And so that's the best way to think of it. This is our constitution. This does not set the policies for our county. It creates the structure that allows us to have really positive policies move forward. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are your charter review commissioners. We were elected from all three of the resident districts, the legislative districts in the county. So representing Lopez, Orcas, and San Juan as the major islands. And we have commissioners elected from each island. And it's a very diverse and engaged group. And we have been meeting since, we've been having conversations since December. The formal meetings began in February. And literally hundreds and hundreds of hours have been put in so far by this group of people, trying to really think through the different ideas. Those ideas came to us from the public, from neighbors and friends calling us and so on. And that's what we'll begin to get into now. So next slide, please. Okay, so we have, nope, go back, please. Thank you. So we have amendments and recommendations, and let me very quickly describe what those are. So the amendments are what will appear on the ballot. These are the issues that we believe should be on the ballot this November and possibly the following November, depending on our conclusions there. And so we're going to go through, we're going to highlight some of these, which we want to add a little bit more information on. But very quickly, the creation of a climate office and an independently elected commissioner that will also be advised by a residents committee. A declaration of the values of our county and our communities. The creation of a Justice and Equity Inclusion Commission. The Coast Salish Acknowledgement that I just read. Terms of office for the county council members. Initiative and referendum, there were several issues that came up, and the three that we proposed for the amendments are making it easier for citizens basically to file initiatives and move them forward. So a reduction in the signature requirements, the financial limitation being easier, and then also regulation of paid signature gatherers if they are here in San Juan County. A really important issue that goes unthought of a lot of the time is creating an office of public advocate. So this would be a county staff person who's there for you. If any question you have with the county, you can just call this person or email this person and say, hey, I've got this issue I'm trying to deal with. Who do I talk to? What do I do? And they're there for you. And that can be a crisis you're in, or it can just be a question. The preamble for the charter, similar to our comprehensive plan, there's a preamble, and the preamble we felt was a little outdated and need to be updated with issues of justice and equity and the environment and other values that we hold dear. There's also some issues that have come up. The transition in getting our Charter Review Commission started was difficult, and to say the least, frankly. And so we're trying to set up a situation where the county government in the charter has a process for how to do the transitions. There's also a section on non-discrimination that definitely needed to be updated. And then there's been a very lively discussion of ranked choice voting in our community. And so what we're proposing is that indeed move forward, but after the state legislature has given the clear authority statewide for that to take place. So now we'll go into a little bit of a deeper dive on some of these. And I'm going to ask some of our fellow commissioners who took a leadership role on some of these issues to help me with these. And so I want to introduce Commissioner Anne-Marie, who's from right here in Deer Harbor on Orcas Island. And Anne-Marie was the lead on the subcommittee for climate and environment. And so she's going to just very briefly describe the recommendation from this part.
Good afternoon. So everybody knows that our San Juan County government has numerous competing priorities, whether it's you're in line for a building permit, or you're in need of housing, you're worried about the economy, getting through the pandemic, or you can't get on the ferry, transportation. So it's really difficult for the county government to prioritize climate and environmental protection on the county's agenda. This proposal consolidates existing staff in one office. It creates an elected official who is solely focused on climate and environment, who reports directly to the people of San Juan County with a mandate to take bold action on climate and environmental protection. Some of the things that this position will do is a climate action plan, the duties that are now done by the Environmental Resources Division, and an element of code enforcement for environmental protection, like wetlands and the shorelines. This position will not be involved in building codes and fire codes and things like that. Many times people ask me, well, why do you need an elected official? And the answer to that is really because for an elected official, it becomes their sole focus and it helps bring the issues to the top. And that's really what we need to do. We have lots of competing responsibilities and authorities, and we want this person to work hand in hand with the county council and to be a force for the economy and the community here. I think that's about all I'll say right now.
That's great. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Okay, next slide, please. Jane, I think you were going to help me with the community values one, and Commissioner Fuller is also helping with the slides. She and I are going to tag team a lot of this going forward. So thank you so much, Jane, for stepping up tonight.
No problem. Thank you, Commissioner Ranker. So the subcommittee, which was called the Process Subcommittee of our Charter Review Commission, is the subcommittee that was responsible for putting together this declaration of community values. And I think it's extremely important to highlight the very, very proactive and supportive and intensive participation of residents in the county in the work of this process subcommittee. It was phenomenal, nothing short of phenomenal. And there's just some very, very dedicated activists and advocates who care deeply about the natural environment we live within and the preservation of that. And so in working together as a process committee, subcommittee, what we realized was there really is nothing in our charter as it is currently written that really upholds the importance of care for the natural world we live within, recognizing that natural world consists of both human beings, but also most importantly, the living natural world around us. And that is the land and animals that we live with. And so after really 4 months of intensive discussion, the process subcommittee worked very hard to come up with a statement, a declaration that could demonstrate the importance of the care and responsibility we must uphold as residents of this county to care for our natural environment and care for one another in the process of that. So we recognize there's nothing, as I said, there's nothing in the charter that speaks to these values, and something needed to be stated that could be infused within the county government's functioning and the way it works. And so we came up with this declaration. So it includes language that captures the county's commitment to a diverse community, a resilient economy, and a flourishing ecosystem and sustainable environment. And so that, in essence, is what this community values statement is all about.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Next slide is also you.
Right. I was the co-chair of the subcommittee on Justice, Equity, and Inclusion with my fellow commissioner, Kyle Davies of San Juan Island. And really the starting point for our work in this together was to ask ourselves, what is being done to implement a very, very important resolution that was passed last year by the San Juan County government. And it's a resolution that verbalized the county's commitment to a safe and inclusive community. This resolution, without doubt, was a result of the very tumultuous situation experienced not only in our county, but nationwide last year with regard to issues of racism and discrimination and non-inclusion and marginalization, including violence against individuals who are racial minorities. And so when we began to explore as a subcommittee what could be done with this resolution, we realized that it didn't have the strength and power that it needed to. And that began a long discussion, which also involved community input to explore what kind of resident-led body could be struck that could work in collaboration and partnership with the county government to ensure that this important resolution is upheld within the county, that it infuses the work of the county across all branches of government, justice, executive and legislative branches of government. And so we are proposing as an amendment the creation of a resident-led commission to support the county in this important work.
Thank you, Jane. Next slide, please. So on the right is the language for the Coast Salish acknowledgement that I read in the beginning of this meeting that we hope would be adopted by the voters as a portion of the charter that the county will read and acknowledge at the beginning of each of its meetings going forward. Next slide, please. I'd like to ask Commissioner C, Maureen C, if she'd be willing to speak to this one that came up.
Absolutely. So term limits was an issue that was on our task list. We were on the elected versus appointed subcommittee. There were 6 of us, and the idea was, should there be term limits for elected positions? Should the county council have term limits of 8 years or more? So we began a discussion about that pretty early on, and we kept at it. Members were discussing whether or not term limits should be considered for any elected office. We exchanged ideas on the pros and the cons of such limits. And the consensus ended up to be that only the county council should be considered for term limits. It was a very lively and spirited group, and so we had those kinds of discussions, and we finally ended up, after attempting to pass a motion for 2 term limits for council, we ended up by limiting or proposing that the county council be limited to 3 consecutive terms, providing that after being out of office for 1 full term, he or she may run again. And that is what we have proposed, and that is what we will send to voters.
Great, thank you so much, Maureen. Okay, next slide, please. So now we're going to get into the recommendations. So again, the amendments are the changes to the charter itself that need to go on the ballot either this November or the following November if we choose that route. And then we also, however, uncovered a number of different issues that, and many of these originally we were thinking would be amendments, but in looking into the law, there's either statutory requirements that they actually be taken on by the legislative branch of our government, which is the county council, or in many cases, we felt that this wasn't necessarily needed in the county charter, in our constitution. It was more that it was a very important issue that we are recommending the county council or other elected officials, in one case, the auditor, take on and seriously consider. So this is not a shall, it is a should. However, in many other counties, when they put forward recommendations, they carry a lot of weight because the commission has spent so much time thinking about these. And so we're going to dive into a few of these that are kind of bigger issues that have raised a lot of community discussion. And so we'll go to the next slide. And one of those that originally was an amendment, but now is going to be a recommendation, is regarding our tourism and lodging tax funds and so on. And I'd like to ask Commissioner Barnell, Janet Barnell, if she'd be willing to speak to this.
Sure, I'd love to speak to this. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Thank you. So this was an issue that was brought to the governance committee, and given the fragility of our environment and our ecosystem, it's not surprising that residents have strong views about the impact of tourism on our islands and want to have a voice in the stewardship of our county with regard to tourism. We did consider this to be an amendment, but ultimately we decided it is a responsibility of the county council to address tourism promotion. The council is accountable to the voters and residents of these islands, and the council must deal with the pressing need to balance the support for the quality of life preferences of our residents and the needs of its constituents with concerns for the local economy. So as we were looking into recommendations, we came up with three, kind of a three-prong single recommendation. The first part was to develop a tourism management plan. And this is underway. It's just in the formation of it right now. The county council is doing this. But one of the things we are hoping to recommend to the county council is that the scope of this plan, which I think they will do, must take into account feedback from a broad spectrum of stakeholders, not just business, tourist interests. And the second part, which I'm not sure they are considering, or we felt they may not be considering, but they should, is they should develop a baseline of data from which metrics can be developed. So the county needs to know how tourism is affecting the islands. What are the impacts to our economy? What are the impacts to our natural resources? And then once this plan is developed, that should define the extent of promotion by the county for tourism. So our second part of our recommendation is that it didn't seem prudent or reasonable to use lodging tax funding, which is how this plan is being funded, to develop a management plan only to be handed to an outside entity. Currently, the San Juan Visitors Bureau is doing a fantastic job of promotion of the islands. It is an outside entity. So it is the feeling of the government's committee, and was brought to the entire CRC, that while developing the tourism plan, the county council should take the opportunity to develop a plan to move tourism promotion and management from an outside entity into the county government. They need to own tourism promotion as defined by this management plan. This actually dovetails quite nicely. The San Juan Visitors Bureau contract currently expires in 2022, and this will provide time to develop a management plan and to transition management of tourism promotion into the county government. It is also part of a recommendation, to the extent possible, that the county council employ existing professional staff who work in the county in the tourism area, tourism promotion area, to work within the county government. Our last recommendation is that if there is a reduction in promotion use of lodging tax, that the county council should prioritize the use of lodging tax towards two specific areas. One is seasonal worker housing, and the second is to protect and maintain existing tourism infrastructure like our county parks. So that is what we looked at in terms of tourism and management.
Thank you very much, Janet. Next slide is going to be Jane again, talking about the Law and Justice Council.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Ranker. So the one of the issues that our Justice and Equity Subcommittee looked at was what the current bodies are in existence in our county government that oversee, that manage, that are mandated to deal with issues of law and justice. And there is within our county government a Law and Justice Council. It is required by state statute that we have such a body. So this exists in counties all across the state. And so we had some discussion with officials within the government about this council, what it does, what it's mandated to do, and how it functions, and learned very quickly that it's an important coordinating body that enables government officials who are mandated to work on these issues to coordinate their affairs, coordinate their work, ensure that they're talking to one another. What was also discovered was that this body is lacking any kind of resident or citizen representation. So it's strictly made up of officials that are working within the county government, which is not necessarily the way this council functions in a number of other counties in our state. In fact, a number of other councils of this nature in our state are actually, they do have representation from community members that sit on this body. And so one of the recommendations to county council will be that this council has representation from the community and not just government officials who are sitting on it, and able to follow the work of this body that is relevant to community members and not of a sort of secure nature, because there are some issues they discuss that residents wouldn't, or citizens wouldn't be able to sit on and listen to. And so that is our recommendation. A complementary recommendation also is that this body function a bit more formally than it currently is. This Law and Justice Council, as it exists in other counties, has a website. has basic agenda and minutes and information about who sits on the council on its website. And so we have raised this issue already with the county government, and indeed this Law and Justice Council will be featured on our website, and the community will understand what it does, who sits on the body, what its mandate is, and be able to see when it's meeting and the nature of its meetings. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jane. Okay, so we're going to move into public comment. We can stop the screen share. I will say, I want to remind folks, we want to try and keep this to 3 minutes. And we'd like you to introduce yourself and say where you reside. And again, just for clarification on the presentation we just went through, what we tried to do was move ones that we thought we could easily do as a recommendation to recommendations. Many of the ones that are amendments or proposed amendments would require an actual change in the charter, so they couldn't be a recommendation. So that was another differentiation I didn't touch on earlier. But with that, we'd really like to hear from all of you. It looks like we've got just over 70 people here so far this evening. So what I'm going to ask is, if you would like to speak, if you would physically raise your hand so I can see you, and then Olivia and other commissioners help me toggle through, because we've got a few screens here. And then I will call on you. And then again, introduce yourself and try and keep it to 3 minutes if you can. And it looks like we are going to start with Janet Alderton. Thank you for being here this evening, Janet.
No, thank you, everyone. I'm from Orcas Island, and I haven't followed all your work, but I'm really grateful for all the hours you put in and the thought. And I'm especially grateful for the diversity, inclusion, equity, and justice work, and the work to address climate change. The first peoples of the Salish Sea considered it their sacred duty to preserve resources for the next 7 generations. We can benefit from their wisdom and from their ecological insights. The proposal to create an Office of Climate and Environment, headed by an elected commissioner, will help our county focus on the very serious trends that are affecting our human health and the health of our environment. The proposed Citizens Advisory Committee on Climate and Environment will ensure that diverse points of view are taken seriously. We are like frogs floating in a pot of ever-warming water. Unless we jump out of our business as usual mindset, we will never be able to turn down the heat that threatens us and future generations. We must pay attention to the science that shows how much we have already lost and how much we will continue to lose if we do not actively respond. I recognize that our county councilors have begun to consider the problems arising from human-caused climate and environmental impacts. But the proposed Office of Climate and Environment, headed by an elected commissioner, will be able to accelerate more effective responses to mitigate current and future climate impacts. Effective climate action will save us money, create jobs, and help restore this amazing place we call home. Let's go for it.
Thank you very much, Janet. We're going to go to Kimball Sundberg.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kimball Sundberg, and I have lived in the county since 2000 permanently. My background is in 50-year background in fish and wildlife habitat protection. So I came to the county from a career in Alaska Fish and Game, and I've volunteered in the county for about 20 years, working on the Salmon Recovery Technical Advisory Group, the Water Resources Committee, the Natural Resource Clean Water Committee now, Land Bank, San Juan Preservation Trust. And my, take on this is that we need to have more focus in the county, particularly within community development, with integrating with all the great work that's been going on. And a lot of it's been within the last 5 years in the county with natural resources protection. We have a great team of natural resources professionals now in the county. When I came here in 2000, there was very few people in the county government that had backgrounds in natural resources. We now have a good team. I think that this work that the committee has done here within the Charter Review Commission is great work. I'm still holding out on whether an elected official, which is basically a politician, is the proper way to administer this, because this person is going to be constantly running for office and they're constantly environment. My background in environment is that environment touches on a whole lot of different things. It gets people exercised on all sides. And this is a very complex problem and needs to be carefully thought out as to what the proper structure is. I'm all for bringing more focus to climate and environment. I've been working on this for 50 years myself. And I just want to see this proposal be, well vetted within the county professionals that are working on this right now. I think Public Works has come along greatly under the leadership of Kendra. And I think that,
30 seconds.
they're a major player in environment in the county. And then you've got everybody who wants to alter the environment here. And the enforcement issue also needs to be very carefully thought out, because we have very lax enforcement in the county of all kinds of environmental rules. And that's been my experience working here for 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Others that would like to speak this evening? I can't, is it Teresa? And if you could unmute yourself and then, yeah, great.
Hi.
Thank you.
This is the first time I've done something like this. My name is Teresa White, not Woolman, I got married. And I am on San Juan Island, and I am concerned about ranked choice voting. I'm not concerned, I'm for ranked choice voting. And I believe, why should San Juan County adopt ranked choice voting? Because ranked choice voting demonstrates civic benefits to our strengthening democracy. Voters get more say in who represents them, leading to increased civic engagement. It places that use ranked choice voting see more women and people of color run and win, leading to more equitable representation for their communities. Candidates have an increased incentive to run more positive issue-based campaigns, leading to reduced polarization. Combining the primary and general election into a single election makes voting more efficient, increases turnout, and saves on costs.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Others who would like to comment this evening? Others? I'm toggling through screens. I see Kira Axelrod, and then we'll go to David Turnoy. I'll have David Turnoy after that.
Hi, thanks. Kiara Axelrod on Orcas Island. As many of you know, I watched the video of the May 24th meeting of the Justice and Equity Committee and was really disappointed that the commissioners, in making some jokes around how to limit public comments, started with the mute button, and then a commissioner suggested a sergeant of arms. Another commissioner then suggested that what they really need is a taser, and another commissioner then interjected the idea of tear gas through the vents. I think it's very difficult after the past year we've had to not associate tasers, especially with the police and police brutality, and the fact that Black people in this country have been brutalized by police. since their arrival here. And especially for a Justice and Equity Committee, I would really hope that the members would be more sensitive than to use this kind of language. Even joking about violence against the public at all is really unacceptable, I think. And then with this, I believe racially charged language is really, really disappointing. So I will ask commissioners to please be mindful that people here, there are Black people here. Violence is a real threat. This is really did hurt people. I hope all commissioners will keep this in mind. And I know not all of us are as interesting as we like to think we are when we talk at these meetings, but we elected you. We hope you represent us. Please listen, and I appreciate the 3-minute limit. So thank you for listening. And I also have some questions and thoughts around, I'm not sure if it's final, but there was a justice and equity proposal from May 27th. And I was wondering why, and I realize we can't get into the nuts and bolts here, but there are some references to citizen that to me seemed unnecessary.
30 seconds, Kira.
Thanks. Exclusionary of immigrants. Also, I thought it a bit odd that ex-military people, it seemed to be specified that only those with honorable discharge would not be discriminated against. And I would also be interested to see us not discriminate against people with a criminal history. And I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments this evening. We're going to go to David Turnoy next.
Hi, David Turnoy, Orcas Island. Just very briefly, I'm very excited about a lot of the proposals, and thank you all for your time. I know several of you personally and know how much time you put into this, and my goodness, what a job you've done. Just very briefly, about the ranked choice voting, which I totally support, I'm trying to understand exactly what the proposal is. I heard something about the fact that we would implement it after the state legislature decides on it. If that's the case, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the correct understanding?
So we want to try not to get into a back and forth. I will clarify, because that was part of the presentation, that the proposal right now for ranked choice voting is that we would move it forward. We would authorize it under the charter, and then as soon as the legislature approves it statewide, then it would go into effect here.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. And I'm not sure why we would wait for the state legislature to do that. We as a charter county have the ability to do it now. So I would advocate for starting it as soon as possible. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. And thanks for being here this evening. Others that would like to comment this evening? Bob Gamble, please.
Hi, Bob Gamble from Orcas and Walden Islands. This is just a matter of curiosity. Why would you possibly have a vote this coming November and then the next year, November? I'm just curious as to the reasoning behind that.
So I will say again, we want to try not to get it into back and forth.
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So I tried to cover that in the beginning. I will spend, just because this is something that's being debated right now, I will take 30 seconds to try and describe it. So what happened last year in King County was that they came to the end of their work and they did a bunch of really important stuff, and they realized that there was too many ballot measures to put on one ballot. It would voter fatigue if you have 10 or 12 of these things on one ballot. They had, I think, 16. And so what they said is, oh, well, let's split it. Let's go some this ballot, some next ballot. We have not concluded our deliberations on that. There was a vote that we are in fact moving in that direction. So the current position of the County Charter Commission is that we would in fact split the vote between now and this next November and the following November. However, there's still some discussion on that. And the biggest issue is how many different issues we're going to put on the ballot at one point in time. And then how they go together as well. You're muted, Bob, but I think you were nodding.
Thank you. That explained everything I wanted to know. Appreciate it very, very much.
And again, we really want to try and not get into back and forth, but because that was part of the presentation and we kind of breezed over it, and because it's a current discussion of the County Charter Commission, I think it's really important. So Others that would like to speak this evening? I'm toggling through others. Lerner, please.
My window, it's loud outside. Hi everybody, so I'm Lerner Limbach, I live on Orcas Island. And first of all, just add my gratitude to all the work that everybody's done. My comment is about ranked choice voting. And I wanted to add that I really appreciate the urgency of the climate change issue and the justice and equity issue. But I want to kind of argue for pushing ranked choice voting up on the priority level because nothing's really more important than strengthening our democratic process. And I really feel that ranked choice voting will be an improvement. As our elections stand right now, it's those that have more resources and those that have more name recognition that tend to put themselves forward to run for elections. And the current way that we do elections is actually a deterrent, for people that are less resourced and, maybe don't have the same sort of, social status for whatever reason. In a small community like this, I think we deprive ourselves of some great candidates that could run, and it's not actually the most equitable and inclusive way to hold our elections. So, I think that to have the other priorities, be prioritized and yet not prioritize having equitable elections, I think we're missing something there. So I would appreciate that being considered, and I'll send a separate email also to request that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Lerner, and thanks for being here this evening. Others that would like to comment this evening? If commissioners see a hand, please tell me. I am toggling through and not seeing any right now. Others that would like to speak? Toby, did you put your hand up there? Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner Ranker and the rest of the CRC. You've done a tremendous job thinking outside the box and analyzing issues in a remarkably elegant way, I think. A lot of these things. We could obviously spend a lot more than 3 minutes on these things, but I would just like to comment on the climate and environmental officer. Upon learning of that recommendation, my first reaction was to kind of whack myself in the head and say, why didn't we do this years ago? And it's just such an obvious and logical step to take to enhance, the focus on environmental quality, environmental issues, considerations that we've all faced on these delicate islands. And so I think it's a marvelous thing. Obviously, there's lots of discussion that can go on about the sort of the job description of this office and how it folds into the existing county process and everything. But as a concept, I strongly endorse this. I guess there has been some discussion or reaction in terms of people trying to analyze how this office would mesh with the existing council and what it would, potentially take away from the council or add to it. And I think the description, Kevin, that you provided, and Anne Marie, that this is really additive, is the most, the easiest way to look at that. For a window into my vision of how this might work, I would say look no further than the governor of Washington and the Public Lands Commissioner, Hillary France. It's just a model that works. The governor focuses on high-level issues, on climate change, budget policy, budget and policy and all that. And the commissioner looks at forest management and open space, and it's sort of the deep dive level. And they're totally harmonious and totally compatible. And I think that really is the model. Even if you didn't have the kind of sort of political harmony between the county council and the environmental commissioner that model I just referenced enjoy, you still have a dynamism that is productive and,
30
and
seconds.
wholesome. So anyway, that's just my thought on that. And so thanks very much, especially to the committee, Anne Marie's committee that came up with this. I'm proud of you guys.
Toby, thank you very much for your comments and thanks for being here this evening. Doug McCutcheon. Doug, great to see you. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, Doug McCutcheon. I live on San Juan Island. I work for the Land Bank as a steward here on San Juan Island. And since my whole time out here in the islands, I've worked for, the Whale Museum and county parks and all kinds of different things. So you can probably guess I wanted to make just a quick comment on the climate proposal here. And I just wanted to echo a little bit, I think, of what Kim Sundberg suggested, some concerns about, the elected official. But similarly, as I was discussing this proposal, with other folks, I was nervous about, the creation of another paid professional position there as well. Just in that we are a small county and we have limited resources, and just I think that the work is there, the importance is obviously there, but still personally struggling with what the best means is to accomplish some of these goals. And do like the idea of there being this board, a commission for this effort, and think that we, just within the county government and structure, there's a lot of people with professional experience and knowledge and passion on this issue that there could be some focal effort just with the existing resources we have without necessarily having to build a whole lot more layers. So that was my primary comment. The second one on the diversity and inclusion, I just wanted to bring forth that also links with the First Nations acknowledgement, land acknowledgement, and that there's a lot of opportunity I think we have out here to make some better connections with the people whose territory we're all living and working on. And I'd like to see us be a little bit more open and looking for some opportunities to create those relationships from whether that's at a personal level or a governmental level. So thanks for bringing that part in as well. And thank you for all of your hard work on these issues. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Doug. Others that would like to comment this evening? Others? Bill Banks, please.
Thank you. I'm Bill Bangs and I live on Orcas Island. Without getting into a back and forth, I have, I think, a request for, it's probably an already overworked and exhausted commission. Again, I join everybody else in thanking you for all your efforts. The presentation went by pretty quickly. I did look at your May 27th spreadsheet, and I think I saw 27 proposed amendments that had received the approval of the commission. I don't think I saw 27 amendments discussed in your presentation. So if you could please update your website so that we would know, in fact, what it really is that you intend to propose amendments, I think that would be very, very helpful. And also, the amendments that I've seen presented so far, at least superficially, virtually all of them sound very positive. But I have questions about the details where, of course, the devil resides. And I'm hoping that before we're through and before you get your ballot measures all in line, that you will be, in fact, answering the questions for all of the amendments, in particular, what kind of deficiency analysis have you done? Where has the county failed? And why is the proposed amendment going to, in fact, improve things? If there's new components in government, where will they fit within the current organization? How will things be reaggregated? How will it, in fact, give some specific examples of the positive change you're hoping for? And one thing I've seen missing in all of the discussions so far is the expected fiscal impact of the proposed amendments. And I understand that the charter review process doesn't demand that a fiscal impact be presented. It's a little disappointing to me. I thought I saw again on the May 27th spreadsheet, a proposal to delete the fiscal limitation clause, the financial limitation clause for initiatives. And I strongly oppose that deletion. I've sent the commission an email. I think you've all seen that. If you've had a chance to read it, I'd be happy to forward it to you again. But I'm looking for more details. I hope that you guys have done a huge amount of good work. The website has lots of good leads, but I'd really like to know what the current status is.
30 seconds,
how to
Bill.
find that. So I appreciate your listening to us, and I'd like to be able to dig into those details when they're available. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your comments, Bill. And I will actually respond to you that we are updating that list as we are talking. So to be on the website. And actually, one of the recommendations to the county council is that the county's website be updated with budget information and other things and be more readily available. So that will be coming very soon, and definitely before we finalize our work and say, this is what's going out to the public, this is what's going to be on the ballot, there will be significantly more detail. It's why we are also taking a little bit more time now to do that over the next weeks. Next is Eleanor Howell. Eleanor, did you have your hand up?
She's muted.
Oh.
Second. Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. This is Eleanor Hogue. I live on Orcas Island and have for quite a while. As one of the few people who has written and gotten an initiative passed, anything that can help facilitate the ability to get an initiative up before the public or the county council, I support very, very strongly. It was a long and arduous process, and I'm very pleased that you're reconsidering the rules on initiatives. The issue that I really want to talk about, though, is the Office of the Environment that is being proposed, and I cannot more strongly urge its being put before the voters in order to get it passed. We need an office very, very much. And one of the reasons that I think it is a good idea to have an elected official is that it will be actually easier for us to have to be able to express our opinions about the officer being held accountable than if it is an employee. Firing an employee is a long and difficult process, and I suspect it would not be as open to public comment. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eleanor, and thanks for being here this evening. Others who would like to comment? We've got a lot of people here. Anybody else like to comment this evening? Steve, please.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I followed things a little bit and participated a little bit, and I'm very proud of our county for being a charter government and the work that you folks have taken on. It's a bit of pushing the boulder up the hill, that's for darn sure, but I appreciate it. I am have for a long time lived in Alaska and moved down here. I have worked with scientists and I've been around the physical realities of climate change for 35 years. And I consider myself a climate activist, and I certainly am a lover of nature. But I think that in this discussion, I completely support a citizens advisory committee. I am leaning towards supporting it for climate and environment with the given 3 council member structure without an additional elected official. I'm really concerned that we're overly complicating things that won't really result in the long term in any real positive change in terrestrial and marine ecosystems around here. I'm speaking our perspective from a small county. I'm not talking about the region or the state. From what we can actually do here, I have grave concerns about overcomplicating things. I think that a lot of the work by the other committees besides climate and environment, to me, looks like very nice clarification and good reassertion of things we should hold dear and we should recognize. So I guess the other thing that I would just say in terms of mechanics is that listening into some of the very well-run climate and environment subcommittee meetings, I have noticed that I haven't heard a word about the importance, whether it's an advisory committee standalone or whether it's an advisory committee that supports an elected position. I haven't heard anything about grant writing. And I would say that my view is that we are
30 seconds
right now. We are not, thank you. We're right now experiencing just the beginning with this new national administration and everything else with floods of money. And in this state, this very progressive state, and this place we are, we're going to see an awful lot of opportunity to get some grant writing done and get some money out here to us to help us with these climate reaction sustainability issues. So I'll leave it at that, and I will continue to participate. Thank you.
Steve, thanks a lot for your comments and for participating this evening. Others who would like to speak? If you could just physically raise your hand as I'm toggling through. I am not seeing anybody.
There's
right
Sheila.
now. Sheila, please.
Thank you, Chairman Ranker. I'd like to express my gratitude, first of all, for the work that the CRC has done over these last few months. I know from some of you who live here in Deer Harbor and are on these committees that you have more than a full-time job doing this work. I'd also like to express my support for the Justice and Equity Amendment and the Climate Change Amendment Office headed by an elected commissioner. I've heard some people express concern about an elected commissioner for that office, but I just kind of looked to the department, the Washington Department of Natural Resources, which has been headed by an elected commissioner since 1889, and that seems to be working out okay. I love the Citizen Advisory Board for the connected to the Environment and Climate Committee, with seats reserved for First Nations and for people from high school kids and people from conservation groups. I think that's very wise and progressive. Thank you again for all your work, and I look forward to voting for this.
Thank you very much for your comments, Sheila. Others that would like to speak this evening? Any others that would like to speak this evening? I am, yes, we see a proud mom with her hand up. Please.
Thank you. I'm going to be jiggling here so he stays asleep. My name is Caitlin Leck. I live on Orcas, and a lot's been said already, so I was just going to echo a number of comments from people. Definitely gratitude for the effort and the time, the brain power. I wanted to echo Kiara's concerns and requests about language and mindfulness. Yeah, agree with learners' points about ranked choice voting. I think that's super important. It needs to be up there at the top. And then what Bill was just pointing out about, yeah, if we can access more details in how, like in all the research and all the work that you all are doing, like how did you arrive at these recommendations? And like maybe like an FAQ sheet or something, like where we can read through like your reasoning, and then specifically about the elected position, the fact that it's not common and maybe like doesn't exist anywhere else? Like, what did you look into that helped you determine to make that recommendation? Yeah, so again, just echoing a lot of the comments, and thank you for the effort.
Caitlin, thank you for your comments and your excellent suggestion regarding the fact sheets. It's something that's been a sidebar conversation that as we conclude our work, we hope to be having more information, as I was saying to Bill, out there. So that'll be coming soon, as at least more information. So thank you so much. Others that would like to speak this evening? Susan, please.
Okay, I'm in the sun. I can hardly see my mute button. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, thank you, CRC, for all this work. It's an incredible amount of work in so little time. I really appreciate it. We all really appreciate it. And I just want to voice my vote for this climate and environment proposal as it exists. I think we've got it's bold and it's, I think, needed. We've got to set ourselves up to receive information instead of scattershot through county departments. We as citizens need to see that it's all organized in a certain space. And if we're environmentally active folks, and most of us are, we need to be able to plug into a certain source, get redirected, get new information. We all need to be working on the same game plan here. And I just want to thank you all again. I think it's really bold, that climate office, and I thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your comments this evening. Erica, you put a comment in the chat. We've seen that and we'll get back to you on that. So thank you very much for posting your question with your email there as well. You'll get a response from us. And if others don't want to speak this evening, please email us any questions or issues you may have, and then we can spend the time to look at those and get back to you. So are there others who would like to speak this evening?
There's Tim.
Tim, please. I don't see you, but please, Tim, go ahead.
Yes, I have what is largely a question, but in accordance with the ground rules, I'll state it as an observation, inviting correction, if that works. If I understand correctly, the proposal regarding the Justice, Equity, and Inclusion Commission calls for citizens to be elected by the council to serve 4-year terms, but then further provides that those terms could be renewed contingent on a vote by 2/3 of the commission. If that's correct, that seems odd to me, because rather than promoting inclusion, this seems much more likely to promote groupthink and perhaps to even stifle the expression of differing opinions or unpopular opinions, because you need to have 2/3. I mean, assuming the person who would be applying for that and getting appointed to that position feels strongly about its mission. It seems like having to secure 2/3 of a vote of the commission in order to continue serving would be almost inconsistent with the core inclusion goal of the commission. So that's just an observation. I'm struggling with figuring out how that makes any sense.
Tim, thank you very much. If you could put your email in the chat, or actually, if even better, if you emailed us directly to the email we provided earlier, if you got that. Either way, we can get back to you with that information. I think you raised some great points. Thank you for being here tonight.
Very good, thanks.
Okay. Others that would like to speak this evening? Anyone? It's great that we have so many of you here this evening to listen into the presentation, so thank you for that. I'm not seeing any other hands.
Mac.
Mac, okay, yes. And Kara, and SJC Charter Review Commission at samjuanco.com is in fact the email that goes to every commissioner. So if you email that email, you'll get that. And then who was it, Bob?
Mac, and Mac is muted.
Okay, Matt, could you please unmute yourself?
Hi there. Sorry to have such an ominous looking site. I share this site with a friend who does a lot of work for a national nonprofit. So we've decided not to put anything identifying on our shared account. My name is Michelle Rodriguez. I would like to comment and echo and support many of the comments that have been made today, specifically the ranked choice support for voting in that way. The main concerns I've had in observing the work of the commission is the representation piece. I would love it if all marginalized groups were represented in decision-making roles. So equal gender representation, you know, how many people live in opal houses, how many people of color are making these decisions. I think that that would benefit us all. I would also like to thank the people who have commented in supporting all of these equitable decisions. Bill, Steve, Tim, Caitlin, Kiara. I appreciate the support for your community of marginalized people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for your comments. Very much. Others that would like to speak this evening? Hillary, I see your comment in the chat. Do you want to say anything? I guess that's a no. Okay, any others that would like to speak this evening? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody at this point in time. We want to thank you all very much for being here this evening. I do think that there are a number of issues that have come up and suggestions that have come up that are really important that we can take back. The Charter Review Commission is going to continue meeting at the very least for several weeks to finalize these things. And to many of the questions that have come up from you with regard to more detail from Bill and from others, that will be coming. And we actually have a lot of that. What we tried to do was have more time this evening to hear from you and less time to go into the detail. But it's very clear to me that we're at the point now that that detail needs to be out there. And we have been discussing it in our public meetings that happen twice a week at this point, actually several times a week at this point. But we will try and consolidate some of that. I think those are some excellent suggestions just so that that information is out there. But it's been wonderful to have so many of you here this evening. It's great to see us actively participating in our democracy. I will say that the charter truly is, I mean, the deeper we get into this conversation, the more I feel that Ron Sims' comments were correct. This is our Constitution. This is something that is only updated formally through this process once a decade. And so one of the things that's come up is whether or not something should be in the charter versus a legislative mandate, if there is the options. Many of these things, as we said, couldn't be. With the charter, that makes it as permanent as we can be on a county level. Ordinances that are passed by a county council could be overturned by a future county council and so on. And so the best way to think about the charter is that it is the structure of our county government that allows things to take place. And so what we're trying to do is get that structure right. There's been a lot of questions with regard to some of our different proposals, and we'll get answers to you as soon as we can. Are there any others who want to speak before we close the meeting? I'm not seeing anybody. If anybody sees a hand, I don't see it at this point in time. Sharon, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, I just really want to say thank you so much to everybody who showed up today, and please encourage everyone you know to show up tomorrow, because we really want to hear from everyone and very much appreciate your input. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And again, that correct me if I get it wrong, a fellow commissioner, but I believe it's SJC fullcharterreview@sanjuanco.com. That email goes to every single commissioner. So that's a group email that we will all receive. And so if you email us there, your questions, even if you set them tonight, just so that we have them again, that'll be really helpful. And then the idea right now is that over the next few weeks, we will conclude either a first batch or a total batch of recommendations. And the way that process works is it goes for a touch to the county council. The county council is not able to change or alter our recommendations, but they are able to consider them, and then they could actually add additional recommendations if they saw fit. But they turn around our recommendations as we submit them to the county auditor, which will then put them on the ballot for this November. And so the ones that you saw tonight being proposed as amendments have been voted on by the full Charter Review Commission to be on the ballot this November. So those amendments are what we are proposing at this point in time. Over the next couple of weeks, there could be alterations or changes on some of that, but we are in the final stages of our work and feeling proud about the work that we've done and hope that we got it right. So thanks for letting us know if we did or we didn't, and we'll hear more of that at the ballot in November for sure. And if you think of something that you didn't bring up tonight, feel free to show up tomorrow night at the same time. But again, thank you all so much.
Kevin, Janet has her hand up.
Liz
Janet?
Lafferty has her hand up. I don't know if-
Okay, great. Go to Janet and then Liz.
Oh, no, I just wanted to alert you about Liz.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Liz, please, would you like to make a comment, Liz?
You're not going to like this, Kevin. So I apologize before I say it. I just want to be sure if to check in. Do we have an obligation, since this was advertised from 4 to 6, anybody coming in from work late? Do we have an obligation in order for all the public to be heard? If so, I'm happy to stay on the line if any of the commissioners, I don't know if that's true or not, but it was advertised 4 to 6.
No, to your point, and that was going to be my final comment, is I'm going to sit here with my computer on and I may do some emails or something, but to your point, absolutely. We advertise this till 6 p.m. And if somebody is just getting, the reason we did that is so that people getting off work could still come in and participate. And so if you want to join me in that, that's great. But what I was going to say is that we would actually take kind of a recess in the meeting. And then if others show up or people who are on right now care to comment, what I would do is probably turn my screen off, but sit here and listen until 6 o'clock. I think that's really important. And then we will record that as well.
Yeah, I'll join you in that, just to honor those people.
Yeah.
Who may join us late.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, again, that's why we did the time from 4 to 6, so that some people who come in at 4 can do it. But if other people are getting off work, that they could come in for the very end. So
we really invite all of you on here. I know it at times can be awkward, but we're so eager to hear your input. So please take this time and share thoughts. I know we're not going to get into back and forths, but your questions, they impact our process. So now's the time to let us know any suggestions, input you have, because the window after these town hall meetings will collapse really fast. And we want to be sure that we represent your thoughts in the work that we're doing. Thank you, Kevin.
thank you so much, Liz. And I see a hand from Bob and then also from Janet Alderson, I believe.
well, since she is a one of our folks coming to observe, I'll wait till she's spoken, if that's all right.
Janet, would you like to make another comment?
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to bring up the topic of citizen advisory committees. There were some comments that having an elected official maybe wasn't necessary, but the citizens advisory committees are ignored by the county council if they don't agree with the advice. And it's so important to elect people to the council who share your values. And if you do care about the environment, I don't think it's been taken care of very well through the critical areas ordinance and the shoreline master program update. They haven't followed the science, which is very upsetting to me because I'm a biologist. So just wanted to say that about advisory councils not having much sway.
Thank you so much, Janet. Bob, you had a comment?
Well, I just wanted to ask Kevin, since we're waiting anyway, do we want to give people who have already spoken an opportunity to speak again, since there are no other people waiting?
We just did. If there's people who would like to make a second
okay,
comment,
sorry.
fine. I would still hesitate for us to really get into a big back and forth at this point in time, because I think some of this stuff is really important for us as a commission to consider, as opposed to individual commissioners chiming in on things. So if there's others who have already spoken who would like to make a comment, I see Mary Grope, who hasn't spoken, maybe has her hand up. So let's go to Mary.
Mary Grop.
I'm sorry. Mary, yes,
It's
I
a
know.
common mistake. It's a common thing.
But I know that too. I'm so sorry, Mary.
All right, no problem. You're not the only one. I'm just trying to remember back to in your presentation, the first screen that you were explaining your recommendations. And it seems to me there was one that there would be a position that would make access to the county government easier. Am I right?
Yes.
I don't remember. And I totally applaud you on that one. I haven't often tried to approach the county, but when I do, I would just applaud you making that easier for people to approach the county and to figure out, I mean, the phone book or the website or whatever. I just would love to have a place that I knew that I could go if I needed to make a comment about anything. And my other comment would be about the climate advocacy environmental position. And I don't know whether appointed or elected is best, but we need to address that. I mean, when I drove into town today and saw all the cars driving back and forth and was listening on NPR to a presentation about how climate change is evident all across the country right now, whether it's lots of rain, lots of hurricanes to the southeast and drought all across the west. I think it's just, we need to address it, and having somebody in our county that's doing that, or an advisory committee that are responsible for that. I support that. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you so much, Mary. Sorry to butcher your name. Are there any others who would like to comment this evening? I'm not seeing any other hands. One other thing that I actually had in my notes that I forgot to clarify in the beginning, and somebody made a comment about this, was regard to the what has been commonly known as citizens committees and commissions. And we throughout, and I think somebody saw a draft that hadn't been updated, have been changing that to residents, to recognize that all people who live here are amazing members of our communities, regardless of their citizenship. And so we don't want to get caught up in that. The other really fundamental thing that this Charter Review Commission is putting forward with regard to that is that in the past, our committees and boards needed to be made up of people who resided in San Juan County. And we are doing a fundamental change, which is to recognize that the Coast Salish peoples whose land we are on also deserve to have a voice in our government. And so regardless of whether they are current resident of the San Juan Islands or not, having that voice represented in our decisions is critical. And so that's another thing that I forgot to clarify in the presentation. So I can't remember who who brought that up. It might have been Miss Axelrod, but somebody brought that up earlier, and I just wanted to clarify that. So thank you for reminding me of that. And with that, I think what we will do is, unless I'm seeing another hand, which I don't see at this point in time.
Yep, I have my hand up.
Sorry, Sharon, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what you said, Kevin, because we had a lot of discussion around that. There were some people on the CRC that were like, look, these people are not residents of San, we had real discussions around so many of these things, and not everybody agreed on everything. And I'm very, very grateful for the concerns that were raised. And I'm glad we made the decision that we did on that, because there was such a rich cultural history of tribes where we live here. So very happy that we made that decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. So with that, what I'm going to do is call the town hall into recess. And we are not going to get into any more presentation or data this evening, but a couple or few of us will stay on in case other members of the public show up. So anybody is welcome to stay here. But at this point, we're going to say that the meeting is recessed unless somebody else from the public has a comment or somebody who's just getting off work wants to comment. And so we will keep the meeting available and recording, but probably go silent here for a bit. And then if you would like to speak, if you're on, if you would also put just a comment in chat saying, hey, call on me so that I can see it in chat pop up in case I don't see your screen. But we really want to thank you very much for being here this evening. And I would ask if any other commissioners have any comments in closing that they would like to make. Somebody's pointing somewhere, but Dave Anderson.
Yeah, Alexandra Gayak is on she has her hand up.
Oh, Alexandra, please.
Hello, Alexandra Gayak, Orcas Island. I missed your presentation at the beginning, which I was very sorry due to a dental emergency. The reason I wanted to really be here is to hear what other people have to say. So it's not just between the public and the commission, but between us as members of the public, that we get to hear each other. We've been kind of isolated. And so because I know you've already heard some of the comments, but other people may not have, I want to just say a couple things about the Office of Climate and the Environment. Relative to should we pass the thing, it's really important to me that the advisory commission, the advisory committee, the public advisory committee is made up of people who have no conflicts of interest to the mission of the office. And rather than trying to pick this person and that person and a number of people who represent certain parts of the county, I think the most important thing is that it is wholeheartedly focused on how do we grapple with and deal with protecting ecology, protecting our ecosystems at the same time as climate mitigation, climate change mitigation, and all of these important issues that we have plenty of places everywhere in the government for people who are opposed and people who don't agree with what needs to be done, but there's nowhere where it's 100% in favor of this really is important and needs to be addressed, and we need to stop arguing about it and get it going. And on the other thing, looking at what little details I've been able to see, and I don't know how much this may have changed since I last looked at it, but to me, taking the issue of land use and development out of the scope, out of that officer having or that commissioner having any power, seems to me to be ridiculous, given what actually contributes to environmental destruction and climate change. It doesn't make any sense at all to just limit the scope to what currently the environmental resources folks are dealing with, and to leave out tourism, and to leave out how buildings are constructed, and to leave out how are we setting aside resource lands or arranging, where are we going to put solar farms? If none of that stuff is under the purview of this commissioner, it makes no sense to me. And, to just sort of make it a glorified code enforcement officer who's going to be able to deal with the current critical areas ordinance or the shoreline master plan is far from sufficient based on the actual challenge that we're facing right now. So I would urge you to go back to the drawing board and add that stuff back in, because there are a lot of people who
30
want
seconds.
to see something happen. And some of us are looking at this going, this isn't even worth voting for. It's not strong enough. So it really needs to be stronger in my view. And I would urge you to reconsider those things. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. And I would ask you to attend one of the next meetings. You've attended almost all of them. So thank you so much for your participation, because I think some of your questions have been addressed. Lerner, please.
Sorry for prolonging this, but I just have a lot of respect for everybody on this call, and it's a great opportunity to just talk about some of this stuff. I wanted to chime in on the advisory committee topic. I totally hear Janet Alderson about committees not being listened to if the council disagrees. I also just wanted to share my personal experience. I've been on the Ag Resource Committee for 8 years, and we have been listened to a lot, but we've also been ignored. But I think that some of our experience has been that we've gotten better at knowing how to work within the system that exists. We may not like all of it, but kind of learning to use the tools and the systems. It got me thinking that there's a certain training and a certain recipe for steps to take to kind of make sure that the work of the committee actually gets listened to, and maybe that's something that we could do. I don't know if that's a charter thing at all, but we as a group maybe should promote some sort of training for citizen advisory committee participants, because a lot of people don't, we're not born with the skills to serve on the advisory committee. We have to learn that, and so I think that a lot of people are deterred from serving also because they don't feel like they can do a good job. So that's been my experience. We've done a lot of recruiting for the ARC. Caitlin's been the chair of our outreach subcommittee for several years and done a fantastic job. I'm sure that I'd be happy to share my experience, and I'm sure others would as well. But I think the advisory committees can be effective and are very important.
Thank you, Lerner, very much.
Thank you.
Catherine, please.
Okay, so I'm not prepared to speak a lot. I was going to save that for tomorrow because I'm trying to really understand things, and I would like to try to speak intelligently. But I will go on record tonight as saying that I totally am the opposite, thinking of what Miss Guyek just said. I'm Catherine Holt, and I'm from San Juan Island. Sorry, I forgot to say that. And I was relieved to hear that the building code, etc., was not under the purview of this climate czar. So I'm quite the opposite perspective on that, and all that power under one thing is super scary to me. And also the whole idea of not having dissent, having everybody be 100%. This whole aspect of climate change, I mean, it is a very particular mindset that not everybody on the island shares. And a part of the checks and balances is having dissenting points of view, which I don't see a lot of in the presentations that were made to the Charter Review Committee, because I've been going through the different presentations. And so I think it's going to be essential so that this doesn't turn into this runaway police county in the climate division, that there is dissent and that they don't have purview over everything. And that's my 2 cents, and I'll probably have more to say tomorrow if I can wade through more of this. But thank you very much for all the work you guys have done.
Catherine, thank you so much for your comments this evening and for being here today and tomorrow too. Are there any others that would like to speak at this point? If not, we will recess unless somebody puts in chat or puts their hand up, and I'll try and pay attention to that. We've just got about 28 minutes left before we will conclude the meeting formally. Okay, so with that, what I will do is I'll recess the meeting, and if somebody wants to speak, I'll leave the volume on, and if you would just introduce yourself and say that you'd like to speak, and then I will call the meeting back in. And for Olivia's sake, Olivia, I think we can just keep recording, or do you want to stop the recording for a moment and restart it? I would say just keep it recording for now. Okay. Steve, Steve Jung, did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say thanks for the meeting and goodbye.
Thank you. Welcome home. Yeah. Okay, so the meeting is recessed, and if somebody from the public joins and they would like to speak, I'll be sitting here, getting caught up on emails maybe. But thank you all so much for being here this evening. We will be getting more information out to each of you and the rest of the public in the very near term to go over some of these issues in more detail. And I actually have some ideas I'd love to discuss with some of our subcommittee chairs on possibility of how to get more of that information out, and maybe even have some more back and forth with citizens as well, and residents as well. So thank you all for being here this evening, and have a great night. Olivia, are you able to put up the slide that has our contact information? I think somebody would like to see that. And so why don't we just put that up for now while we're in recess so that people have that information? Is that possible? Or that wasn't.
I think Jane has had it, yeah.
Sorry, Jane, are you able to do that? Did Jane run away? No, Jane's here. Jane, are you able to do screen share and put up that slide with our contact info? Thank you so much. There it is. So there's the way to get a hold of us for folks. And again, if anybody would like to speak, I'll just sit here and wait to hear from you.
Looks like Kim would like to speak.
Okay, are we back in then already? Okay, let's stop screen share.
Hello?
And who was that? Kim? Would
Kim
you like to speak, Kim, please?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. If you could just introduce yourself, please.
Kim Secunda, Orcas Island,
Uh-huh.
20 year, and I'm on the fly because I just got off work.
Wonderful, welcome.
I'm also trying to look at the site. You guys are missing some pieces of paper on here. Some of the data isn't up. But I have notes from earlier today and yesterday listening to some of the recordings.
Yeah.
I'll just give them to you in random order. And I know it's not discussion, so I'll throw it in whatever format you can answer to later, I guess. One thing is I didn't understand on the equity people. I didn't follow the discussion, but I don't understand why it's not a 50% female identified subcommittee advisory people. You understand what I'm saying? We were discussed, Jane was saying we need 50% women on that board, and then somehow. So I'm requesting that we revisit that one, that we do have at least 50% women. And I didn't see the discussion on paper anywhere. I just heard it alluded to. So that would be one point. The other thing is, I did hear someone when I was driving, I heard someone talking about grant writing, grant applications. I think we need a county grant writer, or all of these. I think if you were going to hire one person, it would be hire a grant writer for everyone. Because there is money out there for all of this work, and there is money out there for training, and we desperately need training. Top of the list really is, I've lived here going on like 22 years now, and I've seen a lot of stalling, a lot of government mishmash, and I followed the shoreline protection and GMA and all of these pieces of paper, and still we make groups, we sometimes elect, and whatever happens, we don't have any teeth. So all of this talk, until I see it with teeth, I want some kind of guarantee and reassurance that there's actually teeth, like someone who is doing climate does have power. And I don't know if the breakdown is between, somehow county council never seems to get traction for what the public is requesting. And this is a huge gap. So it kind of is always eroding all of this hard work that we all try to do in circles and circles. And I work with a lot of elders, and this is the truth. We want to be better and different than we are, but we don't seem to have traction with whoever we put in place. So that the teeth question, the grants necessity, the women. And then I hear this thing about worker housing. Most of us residents don't have full-time work. We don't have loyalty from our employees. We do a lot of exploitive shipping in of workers, and it's despicable and unethical. It needs to be examined. I don't like this creating barracks for more workers. I work at Rosario. I've worked with Haitians. I've worked with Bosnians. I've worked with all of the people who are most hurt and harmed by this country and the whole food chain. I don't want to make that happen. I want to make who we are here better, bigger, stronger, so that we can give someone a full life instead of a whole bunch of people giving us half of our piece of a life, like 20%. Like this $15 an hour insult. So that's got to change. And all of it's intersectional. It has to do with, yes, we do need permits and land use addressed. We need rules so that there is teeth to all of this, for housing, for healthcare, for all of it. It's all overlapping. I think I'm talking fast because I think I have 3 minutes. Is it just, am I past my 3 minutes?
I think Bob would notify you unless Bob jumped off, but I think you're okay for a second more.
Okay. Mississippi one. What else to say? I really made me feel sick in my body when I heard you guys joking about gas, about tasing. I've seen people get tased. You should watch someone get tased before you talk that way. I've watched out people whose eyes have been gassed. I've been gassed. It's horrific. It's not funny. It is not just something that happens to someone else far, far away. We're here among you. We're hurt. And it's not funny. And it's not, that was just like, I'm done. Be included with the other people who you think you're trying to help. Please change your minds around a little bit. Humble down. It's just really hard. This is why we're not in the room. Why would we be?
Right.
You know, so I don't even know what to say or how to say it right or wrong, but ouch. And I would like to have more hope, but I feel like this was really a lot of work, and I don't really have a lot of hope and faith because I've seen it before. I spent a lot of time in these rooms, and it's been very revealing watching everyone instead of being in the same room. I think the woman who mentioned conflict of interest, that really needs to be dealt with. This island, this whole county is about nepotism. It's not about inclusion. It's not about access. The fact that I have to, you know, why do you start at 4 in the middle of the summer? You know, who's going to make your dinner for you? Who's going to clean your plate? I mean, ugh.
30 seconds, Kim.
Yeah, you already started. The whole way you do all of this stuff is not inclusive and not representational. It's not healthy, and you're not going to get healthy. If you really want to be healthy, you got to show us that you show me. Like, why do I have to hurry up and try to get here? And, you know, I can only talk to you from my phone if I sit in one still place because of my access. I mean, it's not just even the accessibility and who's in these rooms and their histories. Yuck.
Thank you, Kim, for your share.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm not saying it to be banging on stuff, but if it wakes us up, I will.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your comments, Kim.
You're welcome.
You were heard.
Good.
Okay. So I'm not going to recess again. We're just going to sit here in case others come in.
Yeah.
So if others come in, please let us know that you'd like to speak. And until that point, we will not necessarily be in recess, but we will be silent here for a bit.
Kevin, can I say something?
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, David, go ahead.
David Dellendorf. I'm a charter review commissioner. To kill time until we have some more public comment, I would like to point out that one of our commissioners, Sharon Abreu, has a wonderful voice. She's a fantastic singer, and maybe she could entertain us with, and her partner maybe in the background could play whatever instrument he played. Sharon, what do you think?
I don't know. I think maybe people want a little quiet time. I do take requests though.
That's a wonderful thought.
Kevin, there is a hand up.
Whose hand was up? I'm sorry.
Linnea Anderson's hand is up.
Oh, Linnea, please. And just introduce yourself for the record, please.
Hey everybody, I'm Linnea Anderson. I live on San Juan Island, and I'm so grateful for all of the work that you're doing. And I've been really touched by this conversation, and I would be remiss in not pointing out just how important and powerful it is to hear from members of the public and the feedback, even the most difficult feedback. I am learning a lot just by being present and being here. So thank you for creating this space for us to connect with members of the public and lean into some of these very difficult conversations. I think there's been some good feedback that we all need to learn from and listen to. And I fully support the work that you're doing to raise awareness around justice and equity issues for our community and our government. So thank you for all of your work and all the sacrifices you've all made.
Oh, thank you, Linnea.
Thank you very much, Linnea. And thank you for all the work you do for so many in need in our community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ron Metcalf, did you have a comment? Oh, you're muted. Ron, you're muted. It looks like whatever you're saying is very profound.
Mute. I don't usually do this on my telephone, so I'm not very adept at figuring it out, but I think I'm talking now. I apologize, I wasn't here for the presentations. And what you're in community comment, but there's no community commenting.
Yeah, so yes, we had upwards of 70 people here, and everybody who wanted to spoke, and there was a lot of people who I think just really wanted to hear what the Charter Review Commission was working on. So
right,
taking place, but we advertised it till 6 p.m. So we really want to make sure we're available. So glad you were able to make it, Ron.
Yeah, just at the last nick of time. The one thing that I'm sort of wonder about is the ranked choice voting. I don't understand what is an argument for not supporting that? To me, that's just the most obvious thing. And where have you guys ended up with that?
So I will respond to you because you weren't able to see the presentation. So that has gone forward as a recommendation that will be on the ballot. Hang on. There is a caveat that it will not be implemented immediately in San Juan County. It would be delayed until the state took action, but then it would be immediately implemented.
Oh, well, that's maybe the best we can do. So congratulations. I'm proud of you guys.
Thank you. Catherine, I see your hand again. You're muted. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'll just say that there are considerations for ranked choice voting, why it may not be the greatest thing ever. It's not a slam dunk. It's not a no-brainer. And if you want to, even if you just Google pros and cons of ranked choice voting, you will see some of the things that people are maybe having an issue with, and just take that at face value in response to the other gentleman. So comments on that. I'm not for it. And so again, more tomorrow, but in response to the gentleman that was just speaking,
Okay.
there are things to consider. It's not a slam dunk.
Thank you very much for your comment, Catherine. I apologize. I actually have to step away for 1 minute to do something for my daughter. So if you guys will allow me, I will be back in just about a minute and a half, but we'll definitely be back. And if someone joins who wants to speak, Olivia, our co-chair, is more than capable to take over. So Olivia, you've got it. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to share right now?
Sharon, you're on.
Alexandra?
Thanks. I just wanted to ask you, is anything going to be put on the website between now and tomorrow's town hall? Even the recording from tonight's? I missed the presentation, and I know that if people are chiming in now, they too will have missed the presentation. And if we're sitting here anyway, just sort of waiting for people to show up, maybe someone from the commission could say something about what it is we're talking about or what you're hoping for comments about. So just a suggestion.
Yeah, so our YouTube page has all of the recordings of our meetings available, including committee meetings. And we will have those uploaded as soon as possible. We send that off to our IT department who manages the YouTube page. So I can't guarantee it'll be uploaded, but this evening it will be sent to our IT department. Currently, our admin who is administering all of the edits to our webpage is in and out of cell phone service and is actively trying to connect at least for an hour every evening. So I'm hoping that we can have as much information posted by tomorrow's meeting as possible. That includes the deck that we're presenting today and other additional information that was brought up during the meeting. So we've done our absolute best to keep the website as updated as possible, to be a very transparent commission, as this is something that we are trying to present as well, is making public documents, easy to access. It's important to us to make sure that we can provide you whatever information that you need in a timely manner without having to go through a public records request. Oh, I just had a timer on myself. That's funny. Our person, Bob, who is taking time, stepped away. So I'm hosting and everything. So yeah, that's kind of the overview of where documents will be throughout the process. And we update it as much as possible. And just to kind of give a recap, all of our committees have ceased meeting, and now we are meeting as a full commission to finalize our recommendations that will go to the council. And we're finalizing our process as well for how we are going to do that, what will be on the 2021 ballot, what will be on the 2022 ballot, or if we decide to do all one submission. That's still being thoroughly discussed. We wanted to make sure to present to all of our constituents, the data that we compiled, the hours and hours and hours and hours of work that we have all put into this. It's been a lot, and I know that this is some of our best work that we could possibly provide. So enough out of me. Is there anyone else that would like to share at this point? David?
Thank you. I'm David Dellendorf, Commissioner from San Juan Island. I could try to do it, or Olivia could do it, or Kevin could do it. Explain to those present from the public what the process is once we submit our recommendation, or excuse me, our proposed amendments to the county council. What happens from there on? Olivia,
Sure.
you want to take that on?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So our recommendations will be presented to the county council, and then they will send it to the auditor which then it will be. I apologize. Is there something I'd like to share? Okay, I'll keep going. It's presented then to the auditor and then placed on the next November ballot. So that is what we have been told is the process. It's also in the charter as well. If you've never read the charter, I would also highly suggest reading our charter. It's a great document and not many people decide to dive into it. So I see that Kevin's back.
Olivia, could I add something to that?
Sure.
Yeah, so the county council cannot reject or alter our recommended amendments. It's kind of a courtesy that it goes to the county council, but they cannot alter it. They cannot reject it. It automatically goes to the elections department and then on to the ballot in November. They do have one alternative, however, and that is that they can put together a competing proposal to go on the ballot. So if they don't agree with something and they don't want to do it and they want to present an alternative, they can do that. But again, it would have to go on the ballot in November, and then you would have two competing amendments on the ballot. And correct me if I'm wrong, Olivia and Kevin, but that's my understanding.
The county council has the ability to put charter amendments up at any time. They have done so only a few years ago with one issue. They still have to go to a vote of the people. In the past in San Juan County and in the other 6 counties that have charters, it is extremely unusual for a county council or I'll say the legislative branch to do what you're proposing. It is lawful. They have the ability to put forward amendments at any point in time. So not necessarily just competing amendments, but there was one, I think in 2017 that the county council put forward. So that is an option.
It was 19.
19. Thank you so much. Maureen C is the person who keeps history for San Juan County.
Yes, I am. I'm a book.
Yeah.
Kevin?
What's that?
So adding to that, unless there's a public comment, I will stop talking.
Yeah.
There is another alternative, if I'm not mistaken, and that is they can agree with an amendment, proposed amendment, and they can adopt it as is and put it into effect without it having to go to the ballot. That's probably very unusual also, but they have, as you say, they can do it at any time. So that's an option also.
Well, no, it's not. It's an option on issues where they have the ability.
Right, exactly.
There are several things that we're discussing that can only be done via the charter.
Right.
The county council can't do a lot of what we're proposing, which is why the charter is so very important. So I would caution us I wouldn't dive too deep into this conversation right now, David, because we want to make sure that what we're presenting to the public is purely factual. And so let's just, there's a structure, and I believe it's on the county website. If it's not, we should make sure it is. But as Olivia just laid out, and you were citing also, that there's a process that's in place, but we just want to be clear that it's not, the county council is unable to do a lot of, or several of the things that we're proposing, which is why there's a charter review commission, because there's things that can be put in our charter or our constitution that can't be done just simply through legislative authority. They can only be done through the charter. There are others, however, as we put forward in our recommendations, that can be put forward as by the county council. And so several of the things that we were proposing, we realized the county council could do on their own, and to alleviate the number of ballot measures going forward, as well as to ask them to do it. We're putting those forward as recommendations. So your point is well made, David, but I just want to caution us that it's not, there's by no means everything we're proposing could be done by the council or any other elected official.
Promotes a particular.
If folks can mute if they didn't mean to speak. And then Maureen, I saw your hand and we've got 2 minutes left.
Just wanted to say the only change that the San Juan County Charter Council has made to the charter since its inception was a bookkeeping issue in November of 19. So that was a simple accounting thing. And that was the only thing they ever changed.
Yeah. And like I said, the precedent in San Juan County over 15 years of having a charter is that this is the process that amends the charter. There's never been a competing proposal from a county council, and that is very rare in other counties as well, extremely rare. I'm actually not aware of any, but I'm sure there are. But it is, David, to your point, it is an option. So are there others from the public that would like to speak this evening? Any others? Well, I will say it's summertime. I left my door open for 2 minutes when I walked away, and there's 7 flies in here. I just, all of a sudden it's like,
Love it. Yeah, smack them.
yeah. Okay. All right. Well, again, for those of you who are here this evening and participated or just listened in, thank you so much for being here tonight. This really is, it's a once in a decade opportunity for us to get this right. And so we as the Elected Charter Review Commission can't get it right without hearing from the public. So thank you so much for being here this evening and for speaking to us and sharing your thoughts or just listening in on our work. We will get back to you. We as a full commission have already discussed this, that we feel it's very important that when people comment or have questions that they're heard and also responded to. And so we're going to be working on that diligently. It will not be in the next 24 or 48 hours per se, but it will happen. So please just give us a couple of days. But it is 6 o'clock. So we're going to call the town hall to a close, but just thank you all again for being here this evening. It's been a really positive and thoughtful dialogue. And I want to thank everybody for their comments and just know that you were heard.
Okay.